Okay, so we're some kind of how with a new mic setup. Hello. Um, yeah, we're trying to get the audio on the stream going well. It hasn't been the best. I've gone through. This is like my third mic, so I'm hoping that this solves the sound problem. I'm sure people will start texting me if it doesn't. But in any event, let's go, guys. So last week we weren't here because I had an early com meeting and I needed to skip the live stream that day. But we're back today, and hopefully with this very sophisticated setup, we can actually get some good stuff going. And of course, the tablet also doesn't want to. Technology, guys, it's Christmas time. Um, so yeah, I just wanted to start off. We of course have our hot drink of the day, which is honestly disappointed in myself, and you guys will be disappointed in me too. It's plain old Nescafe. Plain old Nescafe instant coffee, and with some Planet Oat creamer. Why? Because I was rushing. Because the closer to Christmas, the less easy it is for me to actually wake up. So I kind of just don't want to be, present. Let's see. Yeah, the tablet's really saying no. We're not gonna actually do anything you want it to do. So, right, which we will. But yeah, and the hot take of the day is something I thought of after I announced the youth cabinet, and even something I've spoken about before on the stream when it comes to, you know, just general attitudes towards like youth participation. And I think for me, how do I say? I think actual youth participation, for some, in policy development and legislation and the general progression of society, frightens many people because number one, it threatens the way they think things should be. Um, and then you know what? I'm tired of this. I'm tired, guys. I'm tired of technology. Anyway, I'm gonna shout as loud as I can, and we going basically. So anyway, yeah. So actual youth participation in those things, it threatens the way that people think things should be. And number two, I think a lot of times we don't like hearing what we ourselves highlighted as problems being reflected back to us because it means that some of us then are not who we thought we were. And I say that because many times when I listen to even my own age mates echo their concerns about young people being afforded more of a voice in how the country develops because they don't know better or they don't know what's good for them, I'm fascinated because isn't this what we were complaining about when we were 14? Were we also frustrated at being told we'd know better when we were older, like we were stupid? Because I'm here to tell you, if you're parroting the same lines that the 40-plus-year-olds of our time were using back then you don't actually know better. Um, so, it seems to happen more often than not that many age into the same adults and all the bias that they try to pour into us. Somehow it takes root in many of us, and that's why you sometimes see this swing from open-minded and progressive 20-year-olds to downright hyper-conservative in public, but super free in private 40-year-olds and older. And I think it takes a lot to be open-minded and progressive publicly, but we're not going to get there as a whole if everyone is scared to simply be and exist as who they are. The generation that told us you're going to know better is on their way out. So we need to learn better before it truly becomes too late to shift. So that's the hot take of the day. While I take a sip of the hot drink. And of course, the tablet is still not cooperating. Honestly, technology, man, it's not where it's at, is all I'm trying to say. But yeah, so the word of the day, if you're just joining this roadshow, I've actually changed up the word of the day where we, have the word, we get a fun fact about it, and it's etymology, meaning where did it come from. This is, of course, brought to you by Merriam-Webster Dictionary, which, by the way, did you know that they recently published their new collegiate edition, and there's over like 3,000 new words that have been added to that new edition. And it's funny because a lot of people think that words don't change, words don't evolve, and we don't get new words, but actually we do all the time. So today's word of the day is paltry. It's a formal word that can describe something that is very small or too small in amount or something that actually has little meaning, importance, or worth. And actually, Fun fact, before paltry was an adjective, it was actually a noun that meant trash. So it came from palt or pelt, a dialect term, Middle Low German, that referred to a piece of coarse cloth, or more broadly, to trash. The adjective paltry, which dates back to the mid 16th century, originally described things that were considered worthless or very low quality. So it's actually taken on a number of meanings over the centuries, none of which are nice or kind. Like a paltry house might be a house that's neglected and unfit for occupancy. A paltry trick is a trick that is low down and dirty. A paltry excuse is a poor one. And a paltry sum is small and insufficient. And that's P-A-L-T-R-Y, paltry. The etymology of it, of course, like I said, it's Middle Low German. Its first known use is recorded in 1565. And if I were to use it in a modern day sentence, I would say her man gave her a paltry excuse for a birthday gift, a $25 gift certificate to Macy's. Maybe she could buy some socks. So that's the word of the day, paltry. And then moving on, we have game of the month. And I've shared before that I like to play simulator games, you know, city building, stuff like that. So the game of the month is Ranch Simulator. Nothing new, nothing fancy. It's exactly what it sounds like. But let me tell you, you will be fighting for your financial life in this game. You inherit a ranch. It's a tale as old as time. You inherit a ranch from your dead grandfather, broken down buildings, maybe $2,000 to start. You're sleeping in a tent. You got to buy some chickens and find a way to make some money. Between this and Farming Simulator, though, if there was ever a game to make you open your eyes to how expensive farming and husbandry can, it's this. So I think a lot of times people think about agriculture and they say, you just gotta plant some potatoes and call it done. That's not how it goes. It's not set it and forget it. It's constant work on a daily basis. And not only that, it's constant cost. I think if people were to sit and talk to most of our farmers, which I've said this before in Parliament as well, you know, prior to becoming minister, there's a lot of money involved in farming to even start farming. Let's not even add husbandry to it, because then you have the challenge of you got to get your chickens, then you got to get special lamps for your chickens, the baby chicks, so that they can grow up well and warm. Then you have to make sure that, you know, your chicks are checked every day, and your horses and your cows and your this and your that. Right now in this game, I'm using a rudimentary sawmill to turn trees into planks so I could sell them for a paltry $1.03 per plank and save up enough to buy a dairy cow so I could become a milk and cheese producing farm. Because you know what's profitable? Cheese. So yeah, so that's the game of the month, and hopefully, you know, I managed to make some kind of money somewhere. But in any event, moving on to the actual updates for the stream. So the most critical update I want to give is on Marie Genevieve de Weaver Primary School there in Hope Estate. As you know, at my request, the Ministry of VSR's Inspectorate conducted some inspections at some of the public schools to identify some challenges and to basically assess their readiness and worthiness in terms of public health. Marie Genevieve de Weaver had some classrooms that were actually shut down. There was a stop order given. So we have been working with Division Public Education and with the school management team. So on Friday, December 5th, my policy advisor in cabinet met with the Division Public Education head, as well as the Marie Genevieve de Weaver school management team and the respective service providers that are tasked with performing the necessary work at the school. So the rep from my cabinet provided the order of work that's required to coordinate between the respective service providers to actually successfully complete it and to do it properly. The cleaning and other works began on Saturday, December 6th, with removal of the ceiling tiles in 5 classrooms upstairs, followed by pest control spraying the ceiling. The new tiles were installed on the exact same day. Now, the classroom cleaning process began yesterday, Monday, and will continue until today. The remainder of the work, which includes cleaning of the outside of the classrooms and the installation of spikes to prevent birds from nesting on the rolling shutters, is also going to begin, and that is expected to be completed by Wednesday, December 10th. The goal is basically to ensure that the classrooms that were moved off campus are able to return to the school by January 2026, so that over the holidays, you know, things are done while kids are out, and we're able to relocate them back to their classrooms. Some may know that I think 2 or 3 classrooms are now housed at division exams. I want to thank everybody for their patience, parents, school management, as well as division exams for letting their space be occupied. So that is the update on those works, and by next week, I should have a more complete and final update on Marie Genevieve de Weaver and how that's going. And then secondly, last week we launched the application round for the MECYS Youth Cabinet. Now, this is an initiative that I announced when I first took office. It's taken us some time to give it shape in collaboration with the Department of Youth, also to kind of link it to their ongoing efforts for youth engagement and youth participation in the country. So all secondary schools receive the invite to propose a youth cabinet rep and an alternate rep, and both will be invited to meetings with myself, cabinet members, and relevant policymakers from within the ministry starting February 5th, 2026. And the intention, of course, is for them to be able to share their views and also what they want to see on how the ministry should evolve and develop to better serve St. Martin, and indeed how St. Martin itself should evolve to better serve them. So as I mentioned, it's all secondary school. We didn't exclude any. I think even in my time as a student, what I saw a lot is that we include the academic secondary schools, and we kind of leave the vocational schools or the technical schools out of the process. But of course, we've included SMVTS, Sundial, and Academy VBC in this initiative, because I believe every voice is important, in particular with my own focus on improving and removing the stigma of vocational education during this term. So some schools have a student government association, some do not. I know, for example, we've also included the private schools, just as a note. So we've included Learning Unlimited, Learning Unlimited Preparatory School, and Caribbean International Academy, CIA. And I believe CIA has a SGA. A few other high schools have a student government association. So I think the reps will come from there. Those that do not have an SGA, if you're a student at any of those schools and you're interested in being your school's rep for Youth Cabinet, then please hit up school management and express that to them. I also want to thank Teen Times for really backing this initiative. I had a meeting with them to discuss how I would like them to help me get the word out, and they've really gone above and beyond. They made a cute little video yesterday to encourage students to express their desire to be part of it. And if you know your school rep, also, if you're not the rep, it doesn't matter. The intention is that your school reps take back what they discuss in the meetings to you, and that you are able as a student to reach out and to essentially have conversations with them and tell them what you would like them to bring to the table the next time around. Teen Times asked me, what is the agenda, what are the objectives? That's not being said by me. The true intention, of course, the first meeting, there will be a sort of set agenda for introduction purposes, but going forward is the intention that the students themselves set the agenda of what they want to discuss, and they're able to have very open and frank conversations with me and with Cabinet and with the rest of the ministry. So that's Youth Cabinet. Encourage your teenager to get involved. I think this is the most comprehensive and direct way we've ever had youth participation promoted, specifically for this ministry and in general, I think, for government. And make no mistake, the intention is not that you talk and it just goes to the side. The intention is that actionable steps come out of it for me and for the student reps, actually, to build that civic participation in our young people. And finally, on the official updates, well, actually, no, not finally, one more after this. NSI, sorry, on the sports side, I announced that NSI is moving forward with the construction of a multi-purpose court in the area of Raoul Elite Sports Complex. This court is the result, the remnant of an MOU that was signed by the previous administration between SZV, SMMC, and the Ministry of Finance and VRAMI, I guess, as the government reps. It involved a land swap at Raoul Elite Sports Complex that was given to SZV for the construction of their new building. Initially, in the MOU, which I had asked from Parliament side, it involved the development of a master plan and then the construction of 2 tennis courts, another multi-purpose court in a different area. Ultimately, however, nothing was really done to move that MOU forward, and it lapsed pretty much right before I came into office. So, and essentially, without the MOU having been acted on and without anything actually moving forward from government side or the other entities side, we were kind of stuck in a very awkward position. However, through negotiations with SMMC, with SZV, and NSI, we've managed to secure funding from both those entities for the development and construction of a multi-purpose court. The court would be able to do, I believe, tennis, netball, and I think basketball. I have to double check. what I said in the article. There is, however, also some funds coming from NSI, which is the disappointing part of it, because in the original MOU, it was supposed to be fully covered by SMMC and SZV. However, I've often said that we sign things that sound pretty in theory, but in practice, we don't do the nitty-gritty, drill down to the details. I probably would have done that MOU different had I been in office at the time, but ultimately, it is what it is. I'm still happy that we were able to come to an agreement for some funds and that we're able to at least get one solid multi-purpose court out of it and maintain that court as they have been maintaining all our sports facilities very well so far. So that is happening soon, I believe. Yes, they were laying the groundwork. So in January or so, you should start to see some movement on that. A final update, and most worrying, I think. I've had over the last couple weeks, 3 times I've been presented the results of the EGRA and EGMA assessments that were done earlier this year. That is, of course, the early grade reading assessment and the early grade mathematics assessment. So these assessments are done with group 3, which is grade 1, 6-year-olds and such, and group 5, which is grade 3, so like 8 and 9-year-olds. And essentially, the group 5 that was assessed this year is the group 3 of 2 years ago. Of course, that was a COVID cohort, as they say. So, 6-year-olds who had gone through COVID and who were learning in the time of COVID. And yeah, the results are not very encouraging. I think I've spoken very often about a critical decline in our literacy rate, in our numeracy rate when it comes to mathematics. And it's not just us, it is a regional issue, it's an international issue actually. If you spend any time on the right side of social media, you see that in the US, teachers and school districts alike are signaling that there's a challenge with 13-year-olds being able to read, and they lack basic reading skills, reading comprehension skills. I've also said that as adults, I also see quite a lack of reading comprehension skills in our adult population. I catch a lot of flack for that, from persons who may support other parties or so, but it's not meant to be an insult, it's meant to be a call to action. So while adults figure out what they want to do about their own literacy challenges, it's my responsibility, together with the school boards, Division of Public Education, teachers, parents, and school managers, to solutions for how we can improve these results forward. We have a very high percentage in emerging skill sets, which means that they are now at 6, being able to recognize certain letters, numbers, and words. And it all ties in, because even in mathematics, you need to be able to read, and you need to have reading comprehension. There's a reason why the problem says, if Johnny has 10 apples and gives away 5, how many apples does Johnny have? Fun fact, it's not 2. So I think if you lack reading comprehension, then you can't really do math either. So that general skill assessment is very critical for how we move forward, because I want to paint a picture. If at 6 years old you're having a challenge, and at 8 years old you're having a challenge, and it doesn't improve, you go through a school system, and eventually you become a member of the workforce. We talk a lot about, persons being brought here to fill spaces and positions and such, even at a low level, that we could fill as in St. Martin's. But if you can't read, you can't understand a menu, you can't calculate a bill, you can't comprehend, numbers on a gauge, for example, if we look at the technical vocations, because even there, it's not just about being able to work with your hands. You have to be able to read measurements. You have to be able to formulate a plan for how you're going to build this thing or how you're going to service this engine. All of that requires literacy. It requires you to have reading skills. It requires you to have reading comprehension skills. So that is what we're producing as a school system. And I want to also make it clear that, to my knowledge, 2023 was the first time we've ever done such an assessment. So we have 21 years of foundation-based education, because it has now been assessed for the first time since 2004. And we have 21 years of no real assessment of anything that ties into that academic system. So moving forward, the ministry, and I've said this to school managers because we did a presentation to them, I said it to the teachers of Group 3 and Group 5 and the school management teams, which included the manager as well as the student care coordinators, um, that we have collectively, with parents, find a solution. Because that is the society that we're creating for the future. 10 years from now, these Group 3 kids are entering the workforce. What basis are they going to have to be productive members of society, productive contributors to civic participation, and so forth. So I think it was very sobering, I think, for everyone involved, for myself as well, even though coming from private sector, as I've said very publicly from Parliament to now, I see results of declining literacy rate in private sector. I had to turn down St. Martin's for jobs while at UTS because they couldn't write a letter, because they misspelled simple things like their address, and all of that ties into the job they're expected to do. Because imagine somebody misspells your address and you call customer service, and you're frustrated because they can't find you because your address isn't spelled right in the system. All of this is essentially a revolving door of calamity that we are courting if we don't do something now. So in the coming weeks, my cabinet is working on solidifying a trajectory through 2026 that will tie up many of these items and will make the links that need to be made, and then bring that to stakeholders. And I hope that we can all cooperate rather than compete with each other on how we can move forward and improve this, because it impacts all of us. These are the future caretakers. If you can't read and you lack reading skills and reading comprehension, you can't understand a medicine bottle. You can't understand a prescription. So all of this is, I think, what I want to bring across. It's not to build panic. It's not to put people down. It's not to make fun of anyone. But it is a very serious matter that I hope, as a country, we can come together and address it collectively. These results, once they have been shared with the schools, is going to be parsed out, and it's going to be also shared with Parliament in hopefully Q1 of 2026. And that is the overall plan, so that we can get that word out as well, and encourage everyone to get on board with what we're planning to do to try and boost our literacy rate in St. Martin. So those are the updates I have for you today. Hurricane season again officially at a close. It's Christmas time. There's a lot going on. Next week, of course, I'll be Phillipsburg Becomes Magical Boardwalk market, because I got to get, my Sense by K body butter. Shout out to Carrie. And all the other goodies that are usually on sale. For example, the cupcakes. And then this weekend is Lions Bingo. So I hope to see everybody there. It's going to be a fun time. I never win, but hey, we go for the fun of it. The gezelligheid, as they would say. So yeah, with that, I will be back next week, and I think that is the last stream for the year. If you are having a Christmas celebration, there's coconut tart, you know how to reach me. Or you know how to reach me when you got problems, so you better know how to reach me when there's that. So have a wonderful day and a wonderful rest of the week, and I will see you next week. Bye.